Welcome back to the Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon I'm delighted to be joined not only by Kevin McCluskey, but also Chris McElwain, our newest addition to the Acsom team. And you're settling in well. You're not really an Acsom team member until you've got a doppelganger and people have been ripping you to shreds in the comments. And then what happens is
every week
we join in. You know, we don't stand up for you, we just join in. Right, so Celtic win 3-1 today against St Johnstone. Chris, I'm going to come to you first. Confident display, good tempo, lost their way a wee bit with the substitutions, I think, but you've got to start to give a wee bit of rest to the likes of Carter Vickers and Matt O'Reilly when you get the opportunity. But overall, a very, very good display, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, before we even finished the stream, we'd already gone 2 up, which after half time, which I thought was great. I mean, that's one of my concerns was around the Jekyll and Hyde performances that we've seen all season. And actually to come right out of the blocks, quick goal at the second half, you've got a platform. You've got a platform to go in then and actually make the victory a wee bit more emphatic. And look, I think there was still some really great play. There was a few really good chances there, right up to the last minute. A touch of frustration that we couldn't add to the scoreline, and we conceded the goal because obviously goal difference with a title race this tight at the moment, goal difference could come into play. Hope it doesn't, but you want to eliminate the possibility. But overall, I thought we carried a lot of the positives for the Livingston game, and actually I think it amplified them in this game. Nicholas Kuhn, great again. Thought his attitude again. He's looking for the ball. He's showing a bit of physicality. It's not. Not everything is coming off for him. I would like to see him be a wee bit more selfish. Actually, maybe have a wee shot himself. But some of his distribution is spectacular. I mean, he's definitely got. I think, as both me and Kev said at half time, he's got a bit of a repertoire of this little dink over the top, and when you've got a player like Kyogo with the movement. And the intelligence in his play, that'll get you goals. Because it looks as though something defences aren't quite ready to deal with. Forrest coming on, the club's best winger apparently, coming on and getting a what I have to say was a cracking goal. Goal. Good spot for O'Reilly, who I think was struggling a wee bit with his distribution in that second half. There were a few opportunities he had that I thought he could have done a bit better. Maybe got his head up and picked a player out, but then he does that. I even put it on a group chat. I said I think he's struggling. 2 seconds later, he whips one into Forrest, who promptly bangs it in the net, which is sod's law. But no, overall, really pleased. 3 points is ultimately what it's all about. I think we need to keep building on the performances as well as the results. We need to be a bit more clinical, a bit sharper in front of goal. And try and make goal difference less of a factor towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I want to pick up on some of the points before we look at the individual performances and the goals that were scored today, because chuffed to be coming away with the 3 points, of course, good display as well, top of the league. But Kevin, Chris did mention the fact that we lose the clean sheet, which is frustrating. We'll talk about that because we've taken off our most dominant force in Carter Vickers. He's replaced by Holm, who obviously fits into the Awata role. Awata goes back into defence. And then a few minutes later, we bring on Lagerbielke, who's the guy that's the Swedish international who can win balls in the air. So that seems a little bit frustrating to me because I keep using the example on the last day of the season. Obviously, the twice that Martin Neal lost the league was on the last day of the season, and then you start looking at all the different margins. And there was that game, of course, against Dundee where we beat them 6-2 and they scored in the last minute. They scored this consolation goal in the last minute. Had they not scored that goal, the league title would have been a completely different story. So it's all these tiny wee things that you're looking at. And I'm looking at that game today. We scored 3 goals. We've got the Alistair Johnstone offside decision, which on first showing I was bemused at. Loads of comments coming in about it. We've had a ball stopped on the line with someone's arm. It's going into the net at the time. And of course, 2 goals chopped off for offside. They were offside, I get it. But, that's the difference between a 3-1 and a 5-1 or a 7-1. And then your goal difference is starting to create a wee gap there, which could be massive in this title race, Kevin. So that's the only frustration I'm taking away from today's performance.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that fully. Yeah. The performance that we put in today was was really encouraging. You know, it wasn't necessarily that kind of swashbuckling performance that somebody was calling for before the game, a la Tony, but it was a great performance, and it was just really controlled. We dominated the game from start to finish. At no point was it ever in any doubt that we weren't coming away with the full 3 points. And we haven't been able to say that for a while, even after some of the victories. You know, we've been looking at them going, no, there were a few moments here or there where it was on the edge, but today it was really, really comfortable. And it is those moments that you could look back on with a wee bit of frustration, where you just think, on another day, we get that penalty because it is a penalty. It struck the boy in the arm on the goal line. If his arm's not there, it's a goal. And you look back to the one against Hearts, where Iwata gets the penalty given against him when the ball's coming from behind him. He's got no idea it's there, and his arm's in a very natural place for somebody that's just jumped in the air and had a wee push on his back. So their frustrations. Alistair Johnston's goal looked onside to me from the camera angle that I've seen it from, the only one. I haven't seen any VAR lines to prove otherwise yet. So that's frustrating. And yeah, losing the goal. The biggest thing about that is more that I think we've only kept one clean sheet in 9 games or something. Someone dropped that in the group chat as well. And that's a big one, because I think we can score goals going forward, but it will be those little ones, these goals here and there, that could come back to haunt us later on. It's not going to cost us on the day, in the game, but maybe overall at the end of the season. We need to get tighter at the back. But with the goal that we've lost, there's nothing really that Greg Taylor can do about it. He's been targeted again because of his height or lack thereof. It's something that we know teams do. I wonder if maybe Hart could have palmed it wider rather than straight back out. But it is a soft goal, and it's probably more the nature of that goal, that it's a recurring goal that we lose, that's worrying. But again, I don't think there's much Taylor could have done about it at the time. But hopefully it doesn't come back to haunt us come the end of the season.
Yeah, hopefully we're not clipping that little discussion we've had there, Kev, at the end of the season. You're right. That is the concern. I'm really keen to hear your comments before we run through some of the performances and, of course, the goals this afternoon as Celtic go back to the top of the league. Stephen Sloan, Carter Vickers comes off, home on. Kyogo comes off, Ida on at 3-0. Those two subs prove that Owen Lagerbielke are done. Great performance today, but another game without a clean sheet. Yeah, absolutely. We've discussed the clean sheet or lack of, Stephen. I think that we were talking at half-time, even before the game, about how far away Lagerbielke and O are from this starting 11. Lagerbielke got a few minutes, maybe a wee bit too little too late in respect to that. But Ewan Boy Martin, and I'll bring the comment up later on, goes on to say that he felt Stephen Welsh played well today, in place, obviously, of Liam Scales, because I think your first choice partnership at the moment would still be Carter Vickers and Scales. Welsh playing on his kind of weaker side on the left-hand side. Brandon Warren, how was AJ's goal offside? I would like to see the picture. I'd like to see the picture with the lines, Brandon, to explain to me why it was offside, because with my untrained, casual eye, it looked onside to me. So I'd like to see that again. David Boyle, feel sorry for Lager. That goal is on Rodgers because he was too petty to play him. When we need as much goals as possible for the table, it's a head scratcher. It's one of the ones we hope we don't look back on it, David, and rue the decision. Joe Fulham on top again. Nice reminder, Joe. David Boyle, you come back in, it puts on Lagerbielke. You have to question what Rodgers is at. Why didn't he just do that in the first place? The Kurgan officials have been woeful today. Absolute shiver of crap. The reason I'm bringing this one up is because, ladies and gents, I actually felt the referee, how many times did he get in the road? I mean, there was one time where the play had to get stopped, but he was basically blocking every lane possible every time Celtic had the ball. Now, that is amateurish refereeing, Chris, to be in the wrong position. His positional play is shocking.
Yeah, and you know, if you know how Celtic play, which is, you know, quick distribution, you know, one touch, trying to play through the channels, you've got to be in a position where you can still watch the game but not interfere with it. I mean, that's surely one of the fundamental parts of being a referee. It won't go down a conspiracy route, but it's poor, you know, and it's yet another example of, I think, inconsistency poor decision making, bad judgment. I could sit here. We could probably do a 3-hour podcast on, all the things we've observed from referees over the course of the season. I think the positive was that we put ourselves in a position where the referee wasn't able to influence the match too much. I mean, we didn't get the penalty, but you know what? We actually still came away with a couple of goals. And I think this is going to be important as the season continues, in that we do as much as we can as a team on the park to make sure refereeing decisions don't become a factor in the title race. I think the best way to do that is to put in consistently good performances, try and get as many goals as early as possible in games, so that we're not relying on a decision going our way. Because frankly, if you look at this season, we don't get many, and it's just a fact. And I'm sure that there'll be an equivalent me on a Rangers forum saying exactly the same thing, but I don't really care about that. I don't think the standard of refereeing in this country is good enough. I don't think VAR has done anything to address the dubiety or the suspicion over decisions. If anything, it's actually put more scrutiny on it, and it slows the game down. And I'm just personally not a fan. But something as fundamental as a referee positioning himself to allow the game to flow, uninterrupted or unaltered by his presence being there, I think is a minimum expectation for a referee in this country. So yeah,
I'm going to say before someone else does, Chris, we'll let the dogs out. Big Juice Phil Harron in the background there, letting us know that he's here, and he's always here, because it will be commented on, I'm sure. CJ goes on to say something very similar. That's how you take the game out of the officials' hands. Well done, Celtic 3-1. Apparently, but it is frustrating because we've won the game, we've won it well. People might be thinking, why on earth do you talk about the officials well? If you don't do it when you win and win well, then it just seems as though you're moaning because you've not won a game of football. And yeah, we were moaning against Hearts because the refereeing was absolutely diabolical. And I thought it was diabolical again today. I want to see the offside again. That was a penalty kick every single day of the week. And as I say, the ref's getting in the road. I mean, that's Sunday league level, getting in the road when there's an attack happening. How many times did the Celtic player look up and they had to change their mind? That's split second, and the flow of the move is broken down. That's just poor refereeing, something that needs to be sorted out. Ewan Boy Martin, thank you for supporting the channel, as always. Well done, Celtic. VAR tried its best to stop us. Also, well done, Welsh. We looked so much better without Scales, sorry but true. Or did we look better with CCV? Which one is it, Kevin McCluskey?
It's probably the latter, I'm going to say. Carter Vickers, even half fit, is an upgrade on any other centre-back we've got at the club at the moment, I think. And having him in there today just gave you that wee bit more confidence that we've got a leader in that defence in Carter Vickers. So, yeah, I mean, I think Welsh definitely had a better performance today than he did last week. He'd set himself a low bar and he managed to cross it, so fair play to him there. But having Carter Vickers alongside him helps him. Likewise, I feel it would have helped Scales if it had been Scales that was in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's great to have Carter Vickers back. It's great that when he's gone off today, it's not been through injury. It's been through probably a pre-planned substitution to give him 75 minutes or so and get him off and rested. And fingers crossed, this is him. We're going to keep him nice and fit, wrap him in cotton wool over the international break, get through the game against Livingston and have him fit for the game at the beginning of April.
Well, I'm looking ahead, and I know a lot of people like a one game at a time thing. Listen, I'm not a manager, I'm a fan, and I can look ahead to the next couple of fixtures. And what I'm looking at the moment as positives, Chris, are obviously the return of Cameron Carter-Vickers. That's massive. Kyogo firing again, scoring goals again, starting games, I think is an absolute huge boost for the side. And then what you've got after that, after the international break, is Callum McGregor coming back, Rio Atati coming back. And then on top of that, you've got a player in Kuhn who had been written off, who's now strung 2 games together where he has looked very, very direct. He's looked sharp, creative. I liked the fact that he had a bit of confidence about him to try something a wee bit audacious. He gets a goal. So in terms of positives, they are starting to come back, these positives, aren't they, in time for the big one?
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be timed any better. And actually, I thought one of the real positives today actually related to the absence of Callum McGregor. You know, we didn't have our captain in the side, but actually we looked pretty solid in there. I don't think it was the best midfield performance. I said at halftime, and I maintain that I think Bernardo is not necessarily showing the levels that would encourage me to sign him. But we know O'Reilly's not necessarily on the same level of form that he was on earlier in the season. But we also know that there is a player there who can come on and influence games. So you know, everybody's entitled to a bad patch, and hopefully the international break will give him a chance to, you know, maybe recharge and get back to his level. But I thought, yeah, lots of good stuff today. Oh, brilliant to see him back and actually getting more involved in the play. Service was working for him. I think he still lacked a wee bit of sharpness. Needs to get a few games under his belt, maybe a few more goals just to get that killer instinct back. Because maybe guilty of missing a few chances today. You know, I think the one off the bar, which just sadly bounces out, I think would probably go in 9 times out of 10 with a sharp Kyogo. But yeah, the biggest positive for me today actually was Carter Vickers. Not just him coming back in and actually shoring up the defence. I thought all over the park he had an influence when he was on he was on the pitch today. I thought you know, he was a presence at set pieces for us. His movement just seemed a couple of seconds ahead of the play. You know, he was reading the you know, the attempts, the very few attempts, Mr. Johnstone, to try and get forward, but he was all over them. I thought he combined really well with Iwata, actually. I thought you know, there was a good understanding there between Iwata in the middle of the park and Carter Vickers. And I genuinely think when there are players that we've seen in Celtic sides in the past who, when they're named in a lineup, you just get that little bit of confidence. You know, I mean, Henrik Larsson was the ultimate, right? But I think Carter Vickers has got that same effect at the moment. He's a leader on the park through his play, his ability, his performances, but I think just the way he influences the rest of the team. So, yeah, lots of positives today. Again, I think you mentioned Kuhn. Looks 2 games. Let's, you know, we won't go unrealistic on this, but there's a huge step up from what we saw from him before. And I don't really necessarily think it's about his skill levels or you know, so what he's doing on the park. It's the attitude. It's the willingness to take the ball, the responsibility. He looked scared, a little bit like Yang did when he first started playing. He
kept turning back, didn't he? Yeah,
kept turning back. Felt maybe the crowd was you know, affecting him. And for whatever reason, maybe it's just returning to the fitness or just you know, through training, his confidence looks up. He looks prepared to take the responsibility of, give me the ball, lads. I'll try and take a player on. I'll try and get a ball in. And that's, you know, even if he doesn't necessarily get the assists, if he's doing that consistently, the fans will get on side. The fans will start to appreciate what he's doing. So, yeah, I hope that continues. And look, squad depth. Hatate comes back. McGregor comes back in, our captain. You know, and our players managed to get through. Those that are called up managed to get through international duty unscathed. I think we're in the strongest position we can be in.
Yep, and again, you've thrown in Yang. I'll tell you what, how fickle are we? We're talking about Kuhn. We've forgotten about the performances of Yang prior to the sending off at Tynecastle. He'll be coming back into the fray, and it just absolutely boosts the squad. But before we get into the goals, I'm going to go to Kevin McCluskey and say, well, you know, it's a makeshift midfield we're playing at the moment with Bernardo, Iwata and Matt O'Reilly. We've got Rio Hatate and McGregor to come back. Kev, who's your 3 from 5 from that lot?
Right. Before I answer that, I'm going to.
He's buying time. He's buying time, Chris.
Buying time. Exactly. I'm thinking about this.
I was so glad he asked you that question, Kev. I didn't fancy that question. I'm glad you got that one.
That's fine. That's an easy one to answer, honestly. But I was just going to say, well done to you for actually highlighting that we won this game without Callum in the midfield, because I'd glossed over that a wee bit myself and hadn't thought about it. But it's the fact that we struggle without key players. Carter Vickers is one at the back, but we massively struggle without Callum McGregor in the midfield most times. And St Johnstone are one of those could-be stuffy opponents that have given us tough games already this season. And a midfield without Callum McGregor has dominated a game. They maybe weren't the best and most polished midfield performances throughout, but they were more than good enough to win this game. We've done it without the captain, so I think you've got to doff your cap to the three of those boys that played the majority of the game in the midfield. And Paul, to answer your question, I think it's quite simple for me. Going into the games, if they're all fit at the moment, Iwata, McGregor, O'Reilly, Hatate coming in off the bench.
Okay. I think Iwata played well today. I do, and I've been a big fan.
I'd play him for that defensive stability. He gives you the base in the midfield. And then with McGregor, you can either go him as an 8 or he can be the double pivot, the double 6 with Iwata if you need him. And O'Reilly's just a beautiful human being and can do whatever he wants. As long as he's fit enough, he can just do what he wants in that football park. And you know that he's good enough to unlock any defence in this country when he's on form.
Nice. But he's not getting a slag in the day then, Kev. You and Boy Martin, can I just say, you know, I have said this in the past, and I mean it. When we started up with the Celtic State of Mind way back in the day at the kitchen table with Kevin Graham and I, and we spoke about how we wanted this to develop, I don't think we envisaged that it would get to the point where a community was built whereby we are able to help really, really good causes. And Jamie Tierney is someone who we are trying to support as much as we possibly can. Chris has gone one stage further by getting involved in the kilt walk. There's other people doing other fundraisers for the wee guy, 5 years of age. And over the last couple of weeks, we've been selling off some of the brilliant items that have been sent in by Acsom viewers and listeners. We've got loads more. And I've got to say, I mean, they've been going for a couple of £100 each and stuff like that. Incredible. And the funds are really going to help Jamie and his family in April, because that's the next lot of treatment, £20,000 a time. And I'm going to bring this up because Ewan Martin has been in the Acsom studio as it was back in the day a few times in Dalkeith. He's been at our live events. You see him commenting time and time again on the streams, and he's just given a £20 donation to wee Jamie, which is phenomenal. So thank you very much for that. And every single donation,
well done.
Yeah, I mean, listen, see, when it comes to a community or in numbers, when people come together in numbers, it's that collective that makes the difference, right? It's the collective. And I know for a fact there'll be days where Jamie's parents will be thinking, they'll wake up in the morning and it's always there. You know, can you imagine, right? Can you imagine the situation whereby every single week, every week of every year for the next 15 or 20 years, right, you need to make an extra £1,200 a week, every week. And that's not because you've mismanaged your finances or you want to drive a flashy car. That's just to keep your wee guy going. Every single week, the pressure on the family is incredible. It's insane. So if there's anything we can do to alleviate that, then we definitely will. So thank you to Ewan. That was a long way to say. It was a wee bit like Kevin buying time with his answer. That was a long-winded way of saying thank you very much, Ewan. It's much appreciated, mate. James Livingston. AJ's goal looked onside. I want to see it again. Disappointing to lose another goal, needlessly, like the Dundee game. Yeah, I agree with that. Goal difference could be a factor. And it's beautiful to see that the champions are back on top of the league. Celtic, of course, with 71 points, closely followed by Rangers with a game in a hand, a point behind, and we're both on plus 48. So that shows you how important the goal difference is at this time. What we're hoping for tomorrow, guys, a draw. We're hoping for a draw at Dens Park, yeah? Am I just being over-optimistic?
I think you're being under-optimistic.
Yeah.
I want them to get beat.
I want them beat. 4 red cards for them and a couple of major injuries. No, I don't mean that. I don't want anyone to get injured.
You did mean it, mate. You just want to be politically correct.
Until after we play them. Not major
Absolutely.
injuries.
Yeah, niggles, yeah. Joseph McGonigal, from the pictures we've seen, if that is an offside SFA, have a bit of explaining to do. We need to pull them when we win, lose or draw. Absolutely, Joseph. It's not about losing the game and throwing your toys at the pram. It's about picking up on it every single weekend. If you've been following our pal Alan Morrison's page on the refereeing performances, then you'll know that it's always, regardless of what the result is, always highlighted. Kieran Nolan, fluency to the play. That was one of the big things today. Could have been 5 or 6 easily. That's how we opened up the show. But let's have a wee look at the goals then. We'll start off with Kyogo, Chris. Kyogo, it's bizarre to think people are going on about him having a bad season, right? He's on 15 goals. He's not been the first name on the team sheet every week as he has been in the previous 2 seasons. But I keep going back to this. If you think about his first season, there was injury problems. We won the double and he scored 20 goals. And you think about that first season as a really successful campaign for Kyogo and for Celtic. But we're still chasing the double and he's still chasing 20 goals. He's on 15 now, 2 in 2 games, finding his form at the right time.
Yeah. Anybody who's watched me on here at any point knows I'm a big advocate of Kyogo. I think he's the best striker that I've witnessed. I would say in terms of certain attributes, he's the best striker I've seen since Henrik Larsson. Now, I'm not comparing the two. It's apples and oranges at the moment. Henrik will be for me the best player I've ever.
Apples and bananas, we'll say, right?
We'll say
apples and
bananas. Fair enough. But I think I've never seen in my lifetime, and I won't include Jinky Johnstone and players like that. I wasn't old enough, sadly. But Henrik Larsson for me was the best Celtic player, not just striker that I ever got to see. But when I look at, and I often get nostalgic and I go back and I look at how Henrik played, his movement, his ability to read the game, seeing things a couple of seconds ahead of the players around them and anticipating maybe where the ball was going to go was one of his greatest attributes. And I remember listening to one of his old coaches who said even as a young age, he thought Henrik was, seconds ahead of the other top players. And when I look at the way Kyogo plays, he's a very reactionary player. He's a guy who anticipates, knows where he expects the ball to go, and he moves into that position. And he loses his defenders really, really well. He does, manage to drop his marker. But I think this goes back to the manager. One of my biggest criticisms of Brendan Rodgers this year is, look, you've got an absolute gem of a player. It doesn't matter what you do with the rest of the team. You have to find a way to play this little guy's strengths, because 2 seasons, those kind of figures, I think he'll put them up every single year if we play to his strengths. And I think we're seeing elements of that over the last couple of games. The service is coming in, the distribution is a lot quicker. They're reading his movement. He's been able to get into great positions. As I say, Sharpness not quite there today in a couple of occasions, but you give him that kind of service, he'll get minimum 1-2 goals a game, I think, against certainly the best opposition in Scotland. And he's also a guy who's done it at the European level, right? He's done it for us in Champions League, despite some of the results. He's always one of these guys that can get you a goal. So build a team around him. Build a team around guys like Kyogo, around Carter Vickers, around maybe the O'Reillys or the Hatatis, spine of the team. And I think, you can get away with experimenting in the other positions, but you must play to his strengths. So yeah, today really exemplified that. Wonderful cross from Kuhn. Got to give credit there. Second time in 2 games he's put that sort of service in, but it's all on Kyogo to make that move, beat his man. He's not the tallest, and he reads the flight of the ball perfectly, gets the ball in. So yeah, all credit to him. And you know what? My wee boy's happy, so I'm happy. He's delighted. His hero scored, and I'm happy to see it. So brilliant.
He's all the kids' heroes, honestly. I mean, one thing I did see today, and it suits Kyogo, Kevin, is the intensity was there. I mean, Dundee, when you look at the actual kickoff, St Johnstone instantly tried to find a ball down the wing, and Johnstone wins the ball within the first 10 seconds. So it was like intense from the kickoff. And then in the second half, it was intense. We get the second goal. And this intensity has been, for me, lacking far too often this season. But going back to one of the points Chris said, Kyogo thrives on it, doesn't he? He thrives on that intensity. He thrives on still being able to pick out space behind the defenders. He is a couple of seconds ahead of the opposition in doing that. And it's happening at the right time because, either by design or otherwise, I want Kyogo to be starting that game against Rangers. Ida, listen, let's no Kuhn Ida here, right? Because Ida came in, I think he suffered a wee bit from the fact that we were looking for something else in January. Ida came in, and then he had that, I'm not going to call it a purple patch, he had that run of games where, was it not every 60 minutes he was creating or scoring a goal? Okay, it wasn't great last week. He's come on just for a short appearance today. I'm not writing him off, Kev. But what I'm saying is, going into that game against Rangers, I'm already conceding that Brendan Rodgers is not going to change the shape. He's going to play with one up top. it has to be Kyogo.
Yes, it does. And again, I'm going to do a thing before I answer your question. Or your point. I'm going to say something here. I've noticed a comment that's come in from Brown Warrior, who's asked us to do a shout out for a guy called Jerry Tierney. I think he's a friend of him who passed away last week. A lifelong Celtic fan from Rothsay. So Brown, that's for you. Condolences from everyone at Acsom for that one.
Yeah, deep sympathy.
Just wanted to get that one out because I'd seen it coming in. But yeah, to get back to the football and your point there, but Kyogo, he's absolutely got to start in the game against Rangers at Ibrox. That's the one. Cheers, Paul. Yeah, we've all said it before about him. He's the best striker in Scottish football at the moment. He is the closest thing that we've had to Henrik Larsson. Gary Hooper maybe came close for a bit, but Kyogo's the one that's kept it going. He's a phenomenal player. He absolutely is. And we need to play, as Chris has said, we've got to play to his strengths, because when we do, he guarantees goals. He's done it in the biggest games this season already, at Ibrox and at Celtic Park against Rangers. He's a big game player. And you saw it today. We briefly touched on it at half time, but the movement for that goal, like, there's not another forward in Scotland that could make that move. To have that intelligence to just spin round the defender, it's completely blindsided him when the cross comes in. He's top level. So yeah, we definitely need him. We spoke about that a couple of weeks ago. You, me, Paul, I think maybe Lloyd was on it as well in the show. We were saying, like, we just have to get him back in the team somehow and get him up to match practice and match speed for that game in mind. And he's come in and scored a couple of goals since then. And it just shows you, again, the quality of the player. Time will come with us, I'm sure, between now and the end of the season. There'll be games where we need him, where we need a bit more physical presence up front, where we need somebody that will do a bit of the leg work and work channels at times. That's what he seems to be doing quite well and linking the play up. Today wasn't the day for him. When he came on, I think he was a bit quiet, but the game was over by then. Don't see him starting at Ibrox, but I could see him maybe having a role in that game in the second half after Kyogo's obviously scored and put us in front. Ida comes on, provides that wee bit more physical presence and challenge up there. But yeah, Kyogo's the man. There's just not enough words that you can say about him as a centre forward. He's head and shoulders above everything else in the league, and we have to take advantage of that and just play to his strengths between now and the end of the season. And hopefully there's a big reward at the end of it for us if we do it.
Yeah, and you strike gold. You're right. If you tap into what he's got to offer, you will strike the oil. That's it. Now, we've spoken about Kuhn, the fact that we shouldn't be so quick to write players off. He's coming into his own now. He's looking good. And the win really was wrapped up when Forrest scored in the 67th minute. And I was thinking to myself, we'll go 3-0 up, which means Fergus McCann and Jim Moore could enjoy the last 23 minutes of the game, Chris, with a 3-goal cushion. But Jamesy Forrest, it's a strange one with James. So he starts off the season, testimonial year, heading towards, he's not going to quite get there this season, but he was heading towards that 500 club, the 12 players who have made 500 or more appearances for Celtic in the club's history. I feel sorry for some of the earlier players because there was less competitions, there was no European football, there was no League Cup, and they were competing in the Charities Cup and the Glasgow Cup. These games are no longer counted as competitive matches, but Jamesy Forrest is heading towards that. I think he's about 12 games short. He's not going to make it this season. And obviously Callum McGregor is as well. And you look at him thinking, well, Forrest probably plays best football under Brendan Rodgers. Can he have some kind of renaissance and all this kind of stuff? He's contributed, but then in January, it looked as though he might have been leaving the club. And then he disappears from view. He's back in. He's contributing again, Chris.
Yeah, and I looked at it, his contribution today, and I'm wondering, is that potentially going to be his role? Certainly, maybe towards the end of this season, but possibly even into next season if he does remain at the club, and those big question marks over that. I don't see James Forrest as coming in as a starter now. I think those days have passed. To be fair, maybe odd cup appearance, but I don't think he's going to be a mainstay in the first team. However, one of the things I noticed about his performance today was there was a bit of assurance when he came on. He looked quite assured on the ball. He was quite confident, didn't really panic. Actually, better use of the ball today from deeper positions when he came on to settle some of the play down. I mean, a Pilcris goal, an absolute beautiful goal. But the
wait a minute, not a delicious goal, a Pilcris goal. What is this boy trying to do to you here, Kev? A Pilcris goal. Oh,
no idea.
Word.
I don't know.
My
He's pulled that word out.
I was going to wait to see if anyone picked up on that, right? But I'm going to let you in a little secret. Jerry Taylor pinged me before half time and said, "See if you can get that word into the podcast."
Pilcris. Can somebody define it for me, please? I'm going to Google that.
Blame the theatre lovey, not me, right? That was he made me do it, and I've done it, and I've got it in. But you picked up on it, so fair enough. No,
you've done it with a straight face as well. Wow,
that wasn't easy. Not even sure if I pronounced it right, but yeah. Look, going back to Forrest, I think there could be a role for him coming on as one of these late impact subs. Someone actually, again, because like he knows what it means to win. He's been a winner. He can be a leader on the park, even just by virtue of how he plays. Maybe he calms things down and how it provides that assurance. But I thought, there's still a guy there who can, impact a game with a goal, with a decent assist. I mean, he could have had 2 today. Actually, he had a good run towards the end of the game.
He did.
So that I certainly between now and the end of the season, I don't think I have too many issues of bringing James Forrest off the bench in that capacity. I'd probably feel a little bit less confident if we were nothing each. I think maybe we do need to be on the ascendancy in a game to get him to come in and just make it secure. But yeah, that's where I would see James Forrest's role. But listen, irrespective of whether we think he's got a future beyond this season or not, came in and did a great job for us today. He will go down as a Celtic legend, and rightfully so for what he's contributed and what he's won. And if he goes this season, I'll have nothing but fond memories. And listen, anybody who knows me will tell you I've been a huge critic of James Forrest over the years when he's been there, because I think he does set high standards. So that's one of the downsides. But yeah, great player, good contribution today. Hopefully, he can help us get across the line this season.
I'm just going to have a stab at the dark as to the definition of what was it? Pilcris. It wasn't Pilcris.
Yes.
He's got this thing. James Forrest has got this thing. It was like, I'm not comparing the players, but remember Dalglish used to play with his backside, and he would always he would roll players, and he had the best backside in football for that, right? I mean, it was responsible for more assists than anything else. Is it something to do with that? Did he use his backside to shape his body or something?
It's simply the actual definition. It means fair or beautiful. So it was a Pilcris goal.
It is about his backside. Well, right, there we go. Nice one. Right, Jungle Lion. I like this. Is Forrest the new David Fairclough? And I know what you're talking about, because in the centenary season, here we go. I got the Celtic centenary video. Many of you will remember the BBC, brilliant production, Marco Vanni narrating it and all that. And my brother, because of the Dalglish thing, got the Liverpool one. And in that Liverpool video, we must have watched the pair of them 1,000 times. I'm not joking. There was a red-headed super sub for Liverpool who just kept coming on and scoring goals. And that is who Jungle Lion's referring to. I think it's around about the Kenny Dalglish era, actually. European games, whoever they were playing, Fairclough would come on and score goals. What I would say, Kev, with regards to Forrest, is Callum McGregor's the captain. He's missing. The captain's armband goes to Joe Hart because Carter Vickers was missing. Carter Vickers comes back in. He's another leader. And then James Forrest gets it. So what you're looking at there is 4 guys that Brendan Rodgers trusts in terms of leading this team to the finishing line. And it is absolutely imperative to have these people in and around that first team squad, even if they're not starting the game. You've got James Forrest there in the dressing room, up at Lennoxtown, in the dugout. And that kind of leadership and the leadership qualities that he clearly possesses rub off on a relatively new group of players when you consider how many we've brought in. And I think that's massive today. I think it's key that he's come on and contributed, but also the fact he had the captain's armband on as well. I'll just run it.
Yeah. You could probably add your favourite Tony Ralston onto that list as well.
I think so, yeah.
A guy that's been around the club for so long. that he becomes a natural leader just through that length of service more than anything else, and knowing the club inside out. We watch the games, and what we can comment on is what we see on the pitch. So we'll see the leadership attributes of a player in the pitch, where he's organising, he's telling players where to go and what to do. For somebody like Jamesy Forrest, who doesn't play very often these days, the leadership comes with everything else that we don't get to see, probably. So again, Rodgers will talk a lot about Nawrocki Lagerbielke didn't get games because he didn't impress them on the training pitch. They weren't doing the things that were doing it for him. Forrest gets games or is involved in match day squads more because he probably does do those things. He is leading by example off the pitch that we don't see. And as the season goes on into these final, 8-9 games of the season, hopefully a couple of cup ties as well, his experience will prove invaluable, because there are guys there that haven't really gone the course that much. I mean, we brought 9 players in over the summer, another couple in January. His experience to guide those players through what will become tough games could be huge. And like Chris has said, he probably will become more of that super sub or go-to sub in games like this, just to see us through to the end of the 90 minutes. And if he comes on and gets the third goal in a 3-1 win every other week, I think we'll all be quite happy with that level of contribution from him.
Oh, definitely, because he is, and this is the main thing. The one thing I don't like when you've got a fairly big squad is non-contributing players, and I'd much rather they were loaned out where we're paying the vast majority of their wages just to get them out the building. I don't think it's healthy to have guys that are not contributing in a team. It needs to be even like Ralston. There's Ralston sitting in that dugout there. He's not going to cause any trouble. He's low maintenance, right? And when the occasion arises where he needs to go on and do a job, be that at right back or left back, which he's done this season, he'll do it without complaint. 100% committed. And I think in a squad you need players like that. Those guys that are not contributing at all, I want them moved on. I don't think it's healthy. Listen, very chuffed with that result today. Yes, it would have been nicer if we had got our just desserts in terms of the possession and the final third area that we basically camped out in all day. We had great chances. We should have had a penalty kick. 100% should have had a penalty kick. The offside goal, going to have to look at that again. A convincing win. So brilliant. I'm really chuffed with that. Thanks everybody for getting involved. If you also want to get involved in a German documentary, that could go anywhere. A German documentary which is focusing on the biggest and fiercest rivalries in world football, then they are going to be joining us at our next gig at Gracie's, Acsom with Paddy McCourt. And they're going to get involved. They're going to be speaking to Paddy, and they're going to be filming the atmosphere and the music and the colour and everything else that goes with the week leading into a Glasgow derby. And I'm pretty sure they'll be vox popping the punters of the Celtic persuasion in the audience as well. So if you want to come along, tickets are still available underneath this video. It just shows you what happens when Acsom get involved. German documentary makers coming over. Superb. Cannot wait for that. Thank you, every single one of you. Thank you. Big shout out to you and Martin for the donation for wee Jamie. His link is, as always, underneath this video as well. And thank you to Chris and Kevin for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
Nice one. Cheers.